Let's begin here with, we're gonna, in this section, focus on WIP in stock and basically how using racks for full visibility will help you with your WIP and stock. The key to identifying WIP is by using racks. And racks will allow you to see and identify extruded material that is not packed or stocked yet. Your WIP may need to be aged, anodized, painted, fabricated, or even further outside processing. WIP can now be tracked by rack ID and location, as we've seen in an earlier presentation with scanning. And it allows you to more easily do your physical inventory and will help you manage your your department schedule by having material in racks. So basically, WIP, when you're putting material in racks, you know, if you have packing tickets that are packed for outside processor, if materials packed for your customer, those are identifiable ways to see your metal after extrusion when it's ready. But if you don't have material in racks, you have no idea where material is, how many pieces you may be having moved through each department, and using racks will help to identify all of that material at any time in the correct departments and ultimately give you a full picture of everything that you have movement throughout your company. One of the first places we'll look at is with the backlog screen. If you've ever looked at the backlog screen, there is a tab that will show you available racks. And for any department that you select, you can see that list of racks should be in that department. And those are based on production posting through each department. And when you post a rack, you'll know, you have your routing, and it will show you the department material came from, the next department, the next department. So that's how EPICS tracks the material so that you can see where those racks are and know where they're going throughout the plant. Racks are also visible to each department on the production screens. So for any department that's posting production, there is a scan for available racks tab, and you can see every rack that should be in that department. So if I'm posting material for paint or anodize, I can look at my list of racks on the production screen, and I know those racks should be in my department because they've been posted through the previous rack. So that will allow me to do an inventory or keep track of material that I should have, or go find material if I cannot find it yet. You can configure racks a little bit different for each department. If you have material that has different finishes on the department settings for each department, you can change a few various ways that previous departments can load material. If you don't want mixed finishes to be on the same rack, or mixed finish types, you can separate those so that EPICS won't allow you to put that material on the same rack. You can, as Scott showed earlier, by posting in your age department, you can set it so that your department has one record in without having to update pieces in and out. So it will automatically keep the rack the same as it comes in and goes out if it's not a department that's going to be changing or counting the metal or actually processing the rack by piece. So that'll help you move that rack through the department quicker. You can set your department to allow virtual racks or release of racks, which will create a virtual rack. So say you load your paint or anodized material and the production posting is not yet finished. And if you're using stenciled racks, then that rack has to go back to the extrude department. EPICS knows how to handle that so that that original rack number is still in your production posting, and it puts a little asterisk so that that rack is still existent, but the original rack has physically gone back to the extrude department and can handle new metal going through the department. So these are just some settings that will help you manage racks and how they're going to be used through each department. Once you're using racks, you can move your WIP from one rack to another. So if material does have a change in routing and something was placed on the same rack, you see I have one that needs to go to packing and one that has to go to paint. I can easily click on the rack screen to move the material from one rack to another. And that will open up a different screen where I can see the material, and you can have many items on a rack and only have to move some of the material. You just need to select what you want to move. And we're going to pick one item and then click the green button in the middle. And that material can then be moved to a different rack and given a new rack number. And I can move multiple items. I can add other items to that rack if I need to, and kind of splitting racks in a department that may have the job of sorting metal and where it's going next. So that's an easy function and way to move your metal from racks mid-production. Using racks will allow you to process material that needs to be reworked for any reason. So, EPICS will only allow you to move metal from each department in your routing. But if you set departments in the routing on the department settings to allow rework, if you have material on a rack, that will allow you to send material backwards through a routing or to a different department that it may have come from, or even another department that wasn't in the routing. So on the print new ticket screen, there is a rework tab, and filling in that information just like you would with the print new ticket screen, EPICS will give you an area to fill where the material has come from, the rack number. You can give it a rework code, the department you're going to send it to, and you can even charge it to a department. So if you, for reporting purposes, want to charge things to different departments to look at later to see who's causing the issues, you can select charge to departments and then just post to rework. And what that's going to do, once you post to rework, it's going to change the next department in the routing to where it's actually you're sending it to. So this, even though this rack had a previous department of packing, its next department is age, and then it will continue on back to packing, or it can go to anodize or age. Or if I had, say, a quality department that wasn't in the original routing, I may have quality set to accept rework, and I can just route this out of order to the quality department for sorting. But I can identify where it's gone by looking on the sales order item on the production detail tab. Any material that's been routed to rework, I can see there highlighted in blue, so that when I'm looking at the order, I can see where that rack of metal is and what's going on with it, and have a better understanding of why it may not have been packed when the rest of the material was packed yesterday or something. So that gives you clear visibility using rework, using the rework function in EPICS. I can assign location codes to easily identify where racks are, as Scott mentioned earlier, and you saw with using scanners, it's an easy way to change it. But visibility wise, if I'm looking at EPICS and I'm not sure, maybe I have an area just in a fab department and my department shows fab, that doesn't really tell me where I can go find metal. Maybe, if there's different areas that are identified in EPICS, I can quickly look up and see where I need to go find this metal, so that, I can pull this rack out quicker because it needs processed, or, for any other reason. But it clearly gives you an easier way to identify, instead of just using generic departments and knowing a rack is in a department. I can list where specifically it is so that I can go find it later and identify that rack that I need to. So highlighted that. So that rack happens to be in the east location that we've identified. And you can create your own list of codes that you want to use, as many as you need. So moving with racks, we're going to look at what different types of stock are in EPICS. And stock can mean a few different things for a few different purposes. You may have extra material from a previous order that's going to be an overage and go into stock. You can have material extruded for future orders. So if you think of more of like a stocking program, or you have a customer who you keep material in stock all the time just so that they can easily have it when they release the material. Standard shapes that you may stock, could be different types of reasons why you have material in stock. Or you may have stock because you create kits or assemblies and the components need to be stock material so that you can pull them to kit or assembly orders. So first, before any material would become stock as an overage, you would want to know, before you just put it in stock to sit there, can it be reallocated to another order and used immediately. By doing this, it helps you reduce material sitting in inventory that somebody doesn't pay attention is there, and you have to extrude the same material next week for another order. So if you use the reallocate tab on the print new ticket screen, EPICS can help you find what you can do with this material before you put it into stock. And the section to reallocate pieces, it's great if you know an order that you want to move it to. If you just happen to have your sales order number, you can enter the sales order and item, or you can click the little find finger and EPICS will open a screen and give you a list of every order that this material can match and be used for. It may be shorter material, it may be the same, it may be anodized or a different finish, but you may have mill finish. So EPICS kind of knows where you can use the material and allow you to pick which order that you want to apply the material to. So all you have to do is pick the item and click the select item, and EPICS will populate the reallocate section. You can select what finish it is, where it came from, and where it has to be delivered to. Now, one thing, if you have material that's longer that you're going to apply to a shorter order, EPICS will have to have cutback in the routing of the new order. So all you would have to do is go to that item, insert the cutback department in the routing, and then you'll be able to select that you can deliver it to cutback or any other department. So that's the only special thing, which is the same as if you're pulling material out of stock and you have longer material, you can insert the cutback department in the routing and then pull longer material to a new order for cutback. And then simply just finish filling in the information. You can add a new rack, click the reallocate button. And basically what that has done and what it's going to look like on the order is that you put it into stock on one order and you pulled it from stock on the other order. But this is done in one transaction and you'll have visibility in the change logs. So you'll see here, I can tell if I look at the change log on one order, I can see where the material came from. And on the second order, I can see where the material went to. So that will help in the future so that you know what was done with the material. You can also tell that it wasn't just material that was sitting in stock that was pulled to an order. It was actually reallocated from a previous order. So that is very useful. Okay, so then moving on to stock components. All right, so we're going to look at creating and managing stock components and accessories for future orders or kit and assembly orders. So this isn't just overage material. This is going to be material that we have specifically created to be stock or a component, which is used for kit or assembly on future orders or kit or assembly orders. It's a mouthful, but it has its specific meanings for how we're going to do this. So we're going to first look at setting these parts up. And stock or component parts are basically the same type of part, except that it's going to allow you to have managed stock different than an overage. So just simply with the checkbox on the part screen, it can become a stock or component part. And kits and assemblies is kind of interchangeable with what parts can be used for what. A kit, at least to me, is more material is going in a box. An assembly is this material is getting combined together. And that's what makes it an assembly, because it was assembled. So kit and assembly are kind of combining of something in one way. But stock or component parts are parts that can be part of them. So when you check that box, you're going to have a stock tab appear that you won't have on regular parts. And looking at the stock tab is going to allow you to click on the stock tab. You'll be able to see the area where you can control your inventory. You can set levels for minimums and maximums in inventory. When you want to, how much you want to replace the stock levels for. So a stocking program essentially, but visibility for how you want to handle what you have in stock and kind of guidelines for what you're going to be keeping in stock. You can assign location. And one special thing that has been recent is that when you have stock or component parts, you can actually have a second routing. So prior to this update last year or the year before, you could only have one routing on a part. So if you were entering an order entry that was going to be stock instead of shipping to a customer, or you were creating a stock replacement order, you just had to change the routing. Now EPICS understands on the properties tab, you have your main routing that would ship to the customer, but on the stock tab, this routing is going to end in stock. So EPICS will know when you create stock replacement orders, which routing to use, and the order entry person does not have to change the routing in order entry. So I have my stock routing set on the stock tab. And then I can also see my current stock levels or my current inventory of stock. So any material you have in stock that matches this part, I can see it all on one screen and kind of have a guideline I'm looking at when I want to understand for a part where I'm at with my inventory levels. But to make it easier to monitor the stock and how it can be applied to new orders, we're going to look at the create orders stock replacement orders screen. And looking at the extruded parts tab first, basic stock orders, we're going to look at this screen to determine which part I want to look at. I can see, oh, no, don't want to go there. Okay, so in the part selection, I can pick a part and I can see my current parameters for my stock, how many are in stock, how many I would need to replace for an item, and I can change the amount I want to create a new order for. And all of this is based on the bottom section for the open sales order items for the selected parts. I can see the summary and highlighted in color for all of my stock pieces needed for new orders. And if I had any new pieces already had replacement orders entered, I would see those highlighted in yellow. So those two together would let me know how many new pieces I need to extrude to meet the requirements of all of the orders I have entered. So right now I have no orders entered, which is telling me I need stock pieces to fill my current orders. I need 3,260 pieces to fill my current orders. So I would just select that I want to create a replacement order. And it's fairly quick using the screen. Just click the button to create a replacement sales order, and EPICS will put that order right in the order entry screen. And I think I skipped over the top section. You'll see I have the sales order, I have my order date, my date that I need to have it to ship or stock by. My bill to and ship to is going to be my company because it's only it's an internal stock order. So I can go through there and immediately it will be in the order entry screen, and I can open it right from here and post the order when I'm ready, right from the order entry screen. Then accessories are going to be very similar in as far as replacing them, except that, first we're going to make an accessory part. An accessory part is very similar. So it has a category of accessory, which is going to make it different because it's sort of a generic thing to EPICS. You're not going to extrude it. It's going to be something you're purchasing from outside. So EPICS will allow you to manage your levels of accessory parts the same way you could do an extruded part. So I can see my reorder points, my inventory levels. I can see what I have in inventory. And then going to the stock replacement screen, I can actually create my purchase orders for my accessory parts. And that can be done similar to how we would do that for an accessory part, except I can see at the bottom how many orders need the accessories, how many replacement pieces I've ordered, and I can actually create my purchase order from here to replace my accessory parts that I need. And what that will do though, when I go, I'm not going to have to go to order entry, it's actually going to create my purchase order. So I can then print a purchase order and email it to my vendor if I need to, and have my material ordered for my accessories. And then one step further, when you receive it, you can receive it right into stock, because other than receiving accessories into stock, they don't do much else but become part of something else or sold as an accessory part that was purchased. So I can go and receive my accessories in, and it will actually create my stock ticket when I receive that in. So that's kind of a quick step to get the accessories in to stock. So once you have your stock or component parts and you have accessories in inventory, then the final step would be if you're creating a kit or assembly part. So you have to have all of your individual parts created before you can create a kit or assembly part. It doesn't work well backwards because everything links up to creating the components on your assembly part, which would have a kit or an assembly category. And that will give you the components tab. And so once you have all of that, the parts created, you just would simply add them in your components list of what is creating the kit or assembly. And again, we have a whole bigger demonstration from last year on creating kit or assembly components. So just kind of reviewing this as part of the parts and what we're going to do with them next. Want to just kind of review this. So then once you have your components all added, we would add the weight if we needed for what we needed the completed kit or assembly. And that will allow us to, as the final step of the different types of stock, we can create extruded kit or assembly orders. So we had regular orders where we just purchased, customers pulled material from stock because we kept material in stock for them. But for this purpose, customers say are ordering kits or assemblies, and I want to extrude them now because I don't want to keep inventory of this material. So it's kind of a flipped approach of, I now have my orders, I need to extrude my kit or assembly orders. And EPICS is going to manage this different because I'm not looking for inventory levels. I'm looking to extrude it to be ready so that I can assemble and ship this order. So I have my extruded kit or assembly order, which gives me also that components tab. And I can see all of my kit or assembly components that are needed for this order. I can see what I have in inventory. And I also have a component extrusion status. So if you've not seen this section, this is what's going to show me, and we're going to link together the extrusion orders that are going to be used for this order. So once I enter a kit or assembly order and go look at the create orders for stock replacement screen, on the third tab, we have the extruded kit or assembly components tab. And every order that I have entered as a kit or assembly order will show material on here that needs to be extruded to be a part of that. So we can see here at the bottom, I have a sales order that are going to be the extrusion components for the assembly order that was just entered. So all I would have to do then, instead of what I would do on the other tab, is find my stock levels. I'm going to tell EPICS to enter an extrusion order for these parts because this is what I need for the assembly order that was just entered. And similar to the other screens, enter the sales order information, the dates, and EPICS will again create this extrusion order in order entry that I can then open and post. And that will allow me to have an order that's actually linked to this assembly order. So it's just, again, backwards from having material in stock and releasing it when I have a kit or assembly order. It's having the assembly order and then going to specifically extrude this material because I need it for this order. So once I have that material entered for the extrusion order, all that's going to do, once that'll allow me to follow when the material is being extruded and it's ready in stock, so that then the assembly department can combine the material. And it's automatically going to be pre-allocated to this order, which is what we're going to look at with what does pre-allocate or deallocate means. So that those are fairly new terms in the past few updates, because we can now do this with linking extrusion orders to kit or assembly orders. And it just simply means for this purpose, they're automatically linked together. And that will not allow any other order to use that material when it's extruded on that extrusion order and goes into stock. You'll see here, if I was looking at this is from the stock part, from one of the parts on the stock inventory levels, there's an order listed as a destination order. That means this material's in stock, but it belongs to another order, so nobody else can take it. And they the pull from stock screens would not let another order pull that material. Because again, it was automatically pre-allocated to this order and extruded specifically for this order. Now we can also manually pre-allocate material to any order prior to filling or pulling. So say I'm looking at inventory and I see I happen to have a bundle of something that one of my customers may want to use, and I call them and say, hey, can you use this bundle? And they say, yeah, and they get me a purchase order. So before anybody else has a chance to do their process and pull that bundle and apply it to an order, I can go in and pre-allocate that material to the order I just entered so that I know that bundle belongs to somebody that I promised it to, and nobody else can take this bundle. So when I'm looking at the fill from stock screen, I'll see it on that order if I enter that order to pull material. But if another sales order was entered, they would not see that bundle as available to be pre-allocated or filled from stock to a different order because I've already dedicated it to something else. So, and if I want to, just walking through how to do that, I would just on the fill from stock screen, I can see available stock. If I want to pre-allocate more bundles, I would just select them and then click the pre-allocate button. And it's very visible when you have material that's pre-allocated. If you're looking at a stock ticket, there's pre-allocated to order and item fields. So you can see which order the material's pre-allocated to. And on the sales order, EPICS will automatically insert a pre-allocate department. So prior to seeing the pool department, which you will still see once the material's pooled, EPICS will insert the pre-allocate department and also reduce the extrusion quantity as soon as you pre-allocate that material. There's pre-allocate. And if for any reason you decide later the customer changed their mind or you wanted to put it on a bundle on a different order, you can deallocate the material. And that's as simple as going back to the sales order that you pre-allocated it to and rechecking the bundle and clicking the deallocate box. Or from the print new ticket screen, you can, when you see an order is pre-allocated to a different order, you can use the undo options at the bottom of the maintain stock inventory screen and select to deallocate the material. So knowing all of that and back to how our WIP and stock are moving through the plant and being visible, the racks will allow you to visibly see your racks for physical inventory. Without racks, you're missing this part because you can only see, again, your finished goods that have ticketed material. We'll have this work in process tab, and you'll see here you have a list of racks, which, you know, again, you can inventory, you can scan things with the racks, but you wouldn't be able to use this at all in part of your physical inventory and do a rack inventory. You would only be able to print papers and physically write down material and sales orders and items. So using racks to fulfill the rest of your physical inventory process is really important and helpful to get a complete inventory of your material. So here's the finished goods tab. You see you had all of the different ticket statuses, but you don't have that for the work in process if you don't have racks. And there were your ticket numbers that you can inventory. And finally, the department schedule is the last place then that, because you're using racks, you have visibility of material for each department to know that that material is ready for that department to process it. Yes, you can use the department schedule without racks, but you're just basically scheduling orders. When you have material in racks, you can see on the schedule screen, it will tell you pieces, pounds, and hours that are actually ready for that department so that you can process material or find material. And, you know, if you have something on the schedule, you can actually go find if it's not ready in your department to see what happened, and maybe you'll find it went to rework or something else that you were not expecting. But because of racks, that makes it all possible to have this visibility and see where everything is at all times. And with that, that is I focus on WIP in stock, and hopefully that will give you a lot of missing information for full visibility of material all throughout your plant.